Welcome to 21 Questions. Today I'm hanging out with a legend in the game. He studied martial arts for a number of decades. He's known in the gym as the Jedi, and was one of the biggest influences that got me into jiu-jitsu by teaching in the very first class that I attended. Welcome, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Ronnie. It's always nice to know that I've sort of managed to start someone down that path and they're still stuck with it, especially if they get the black belt and beyond.
Yeah, I'm a
Great
tragic,
stuff.
mate. I'm a tragic. So let's start with
Well,
your name, gym, and your ranks.
okay, Andrew Nerlich's my name. Currently train at Lange's MMA, as you probably guessed. I also teach and do a little bit of training at Rick Spain's gym at the Red Boat Kung Fu Academy in Redfern. Yeah, I've got most of my belts at Lange's, and yeah, that's definitely my home gym. Anthony Lange is my jiu-jitsu coach.
Excellent. If you were to die tomorrow, what would be for dinner tonight?
It'd have to be pizza, mate, with pepperoni. Um, Other than the fact that it'd be really bad for my health, I could eat pizza 7 days a week. I don't, but that's probably my favourite food.
Interesting. Tomato sauce. Does it belong in the fridge or the cupboard?
I keep it in the fridge. I don't really want my kitchen cupboards full of biology experiments. I don't want to run the Wuhan COVID lab out of my kitchen.
Yeah, okay. Controversial. That's a fair call.
That's probably analogous to whether you should wash your belt or not.
Yeah, yeah. That's a question for another day. But,
Yeah.
what would you say your dream car is?
My dream car, it's got to be something big and loud. Definitely a V8. None of this sort of slick V12 sort of stuff. Probably like the Black Interceptor out of Mad Max, or an AC Cobra with a 351 motor in it, something like that.
Yes.
Realistically, you can't run those supercars unless you've got a ton of money and you're on a first name basis with really good mechanics who charge the earth. I just really want a nice, reliable car that doesn't cost too much to run and carries all the stuff that I need, which usually isn't that much.
Yeah. Okay. What about your favorite band, album, and song?
Okay. I like Tool. I like Queens of the Stone Age. I think Josh Homme is like such an amazingly good musician and songwriter, and brilliant collaborator. My favourite album would be Lateralis, Tool.
Okay.
My favourite songs, it's always very hard to pick one. Just from sort of songs that have got a really good guitar lick and really good structure. I like She Sells Sanctuary by The Cult. And Seven Nation Army, White Stripes. Just killer guitar riffs, you know what I mean?
Yes, raw.
Yeah,
definitely.
I've been being old and stuff like that, and sometimes thinking morbidly, the song that I'd like played at my funeral is completely different, and that's Mandolin Wind by Rod Stewart, it's pretty old now. It came out in like the 60s, I think. but it's a beautiful sort of folk song.
Okay.
I'll put a link up on my Facebook or something.
Yeah, please do. Oh, maybe I'll dig it out and I'll put it up too.
Yeah, but my musical tastes tend to heavier rock, but I go a little bit wider as well.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
Could you recommend a good book?
For biographies, a guy that I think is absolutely amazing is the war artist George Giddos. It's the Australian war artist. He went to Rwanda and he spent a lot of time in Afghanistan, not just with the soldiers, but sort of out helping the locals as well. He's probably about the bravest guy I've ever met. He's not even a soldier, he's an artist, but he saved hundreds of lives in war zones. He's got a book out called Blood Mystic, which I'd highly recommend. It's a little bit expensive and it's in a funny sort of format with dead trees, but you can also get it on Kindle. That guy has just got the most amazing life story. With regard to martial arts, you've got to go for John Will's trilogy, Rogue Black Belt, and also Jeff Thompson's Watch My Back. Other reading, I really like Tim Winton's Breath, which is about surfing. And a bit of dark humour, The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. Also, Hunter S. Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yes. All right. You a cat person or a dog person?
My wife and I have owned 5 Siamese cats, and we've got one at the moment. I like dogs. I used to play soccer twice a week with Rick Spain's dog.
Yes, I remember that dog.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen his latest one, Rosie. She's an Irish Terrier. Very nice dog, very playful.
Yeah. So what got you into martial arts?
I'm a child of the 60s and 70s. Around the time I was growing up, you had a lot of hippie culture and a lot of people were into, Eastern philosophy and that sort of thing. I read a book called Zen and Japanese Culture by D.T. Suzuki. But then I also saw a kung fu movie called 5 Fingers of Death.
Yes.
That I really liked.
Yes.
I've seen Bruce Lee's movies and Shogun Assassin and stuff like that. But once I finished university, I went to Canberra for a job in the public service. And one of my work colleagues knew a guy that worked upstairs from us that was a kung fu teacher. And his name was David Crook. And this guy in my office convinced David to teach a few of us basic kung fu. And after a few weeks, there was just me, another guy, and him that was still around. And I just sort of stuck with him on that arrangement, just training at lunchtime. And as he got to know me a bit better, we'd sort of train at night at a friend of his place. He runs classes now, but he wasn't running them at the time. So most of what I got from him was private lessons.
Oh,
And yeah, he was, to me, it was like, I was a sorcerer's apprentice. I couldn't believe how generous he was with his knowledge and his time. And sort of what I got from him with regard to training and life is, he was a really good kung fu guy, but he was also a full-time public servant and a family man. So, you didn't sort of have to give it all up and go to a monastery or open a gym and train 24/7 to sort of get good, sort of thing.
Yep.
And he just set the bar so high for anyone else I was going to train with.
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
And sort of after I moved back to Sydney, I tried a few other places, but none of them really clicked. And there was one place I stayed with for like 5 years that did Xingyi and Bagua Kung Fu, but eventually, the guy was sort of a bit of a manipulator. He wasn't quite a cult leader because he was too disorganised, and his personal life was a complete train wreck. But I sort of stuck with him for a long time, but eventually it just got ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I had to leave that, and I sort of just sort of concentrated on career for a while because it was a good thing to do at that stage, because I'd sort of been neglecting it because I'd been hanging around with this cult leader sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really a cult leader. He could have been if he was organised, but he wasn't. But then I started training with Rick Spain. I sort of had a dream that I moved somewhere close to Canberra and I could start doing kung fu with David Crook again. I thought, I want to keep doing this stuff. I don't want to give it up.
Yep.
So I looked around to see who was there at the time, and Rick Spain had been running in Sydney maybe for a year and a half or so. So I took up with him. He had a good reputation. He had a lot of fights as a kickboxer. He 37 pro fights. And I thought, this guy's pretty good. He did exhibition bouts with Benny Urquidez and Bill Wallace. And I thought, this guy, he's not a paper tiger sort of thing.
Yes.
So I'll go there. And that was a very good decision for me. And I've sort of trained with him on and off for over 30 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Rick's solid. He's solid.
Yeah. He's coming out the wrong side of a hip resurfacing at the moment.
Ooh.
So he had a couple of difficult years, but he's sort of seems to be on the up again now.
Yeah. No, he's I still remember a few good stories around Rick. They were always good. Do you still dabble in more than one form of martial arts?
Well, yes. Just as well I do, because I have nothing to do during lockdown. Most of the kung fu forms that I learned from David Crook and obviously from Rick, I still try to practice fairly regularly. To me, it's more of a sort of meditative thing, and you've got to stay sort of reasonably flexible and coordinated to be able to do that stuff. So I think it's a good practice. People say, kata and forms are a waste of time for fighting, but that's not really so much the reason that I do them. It's more to, I feel like I'm energized after I've done like some forms.
Yeah.
I've been playing around with sticks and knives, not real knives, down the park. But I'd probably only be a danger to myself and not to others if I had to use that stuff for real. But I find it interesting.
Yes, yeah, I'm a big fan of those weapons.
Yeah.
What about your most memorable fight of yours, whether it be on the street, on the mats, or on the phone? What would you say?
Well, in 2018, I was caught up in a road rage incident. And yeah, I defended myself okay. I didn't sort of get out of the car and beat the guy into a pulp or anything.
Which you could have.
Well, I don't know. As I say, it all happened so fast.
Yep.
It was probably best that I didn't even attempt that. That sort of blew up, and it was on the front page of the Manly Daily, and it ended up being part of a television show, the Sunday night program, which is now defunct. You know, I appeared on that because of being in this road rage incident. Other people have contacted me from time to time about that. So I guess you've got to say that's the most memorable because nobody's letting me forget it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I definitely saw it.
It's, to be honest, when you add up everything that's happened, I mean, I wasn't sort of badly hurt. I had cuts and bruises, but if you get into a fight with anyone that's trying to hurt you, you've got to expect those.
Yeah, it's a given.
No matter how good you are. I found that the training I'd done protected me. Like if I hadn't have taken the sort of trained responses I'd taken, I could well have been badly hurt. All in all, with all the people that I've met out of it and the way things worked out and all that, it's almost been a positive experience.
Yeah,
seems strange, but that's the way it's been.
Well, I think the message that they were portraying was that you have all that martial arts experience and you intelligently defended yourself, against a man that was enraged and pretty much he ended up in jail.
Yeah, and not to, well, it's not excusing anything, but he was 20, he was bigger, stronger than me, and I was 63 years old at the time. Part of me still wishes I'd sort of got out of the car and, taken him down, punched him in the face, got him to turn over, got him with a rear naked choke, and got up and turned around to the dash cam that captured it all, and put up my hands. But no, I think it worked out for the best the way it was. But that's no one's going to let me forget that. I think was it about a month ago, SBS got in touch with me because they're doing a program on rage.
Oh wow!
And I'll be on that. Though I think my part's going to be pretty small. It's not really the program's. I won't put out any spoilers, but it's not so much about victims of rage, but people. Well, actually, it is. Rage is something that you can simultaneously be a perpetrator and a victim of.
Yes,
because it's all about losing control. Yeah,
definitely. It's. That was a significant. For anyone, that'd be a significant event. Like if you handle it amazingly, it was admirable, mate. Respect.
Thanks. I think the main thing that you should try and do in that situation is not see yourself as a victim. See yourself as a survivor or somebody that's been treated badly or something like that, but not a victim. You can bounce back.
Yeah, and then the footage even portrayed you as a hero. You know, you even went up and shook his hand and had a chat with him afterwards, and you know, it's
yeah. To be honest, that was a bit weird, and yeah, it was, yeah, the TV guy sold it to me, and I sort of sold it to myself.
yeah,
But it sort of, yeah, it wasn't sort of any sort of great, high point in my life or anything like that, or I didn't feel particularly virtuous about it. It was just sort of like, okay, well, I'd sort of done it, and I thought, well, okay, I did it. So what?
yeah.
What time's the train home go? That sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it was, mate, water off a duck's back to you, but there's a massive, massive incident. You know, it was just up the road here too, so it was, yeah, it goes to show. I think if you've got the background in like you do with martial arts, you can handle yourself a lot differently to what others may. But all right, so moving on, the next question: do you remember your very first martial arts class?
I do. I mean, it's a bit vague, but we're all over at the park across from my office block in Canberra. About 7 of us in tracky decks and t-shirts and stuff like that, and had no idea what we were doing. But David was showing us a few really basic stuff, like how to punch and how to form a fist and all that sort of deal.
So who would you say your biggest influences are in martial arts that got you to where you are today?
Okay, well, David obviously started me on the track. He sort of showed me enough sort of possibilities and, a path that I could go down that sustained me for this long, which is, 77 to 2021, including the lockdown. Rick Spain sort of, he really got me to take the next step and, really try and improve myself as a martial artist. And, I think as a result of his expectations and guidance, I made some not only sort of psychological but physical transformations with myself that would never have happened otherwise. Like, I had a lot of back trouble and, flexibility problems when I started out, and it was mainly Rick sort of saying, your kicks, he didn't say your kicks suck, but he sort of, you do a grading, and he said, well, your kicks let you down. And, that sort of drove me to become a better kicker and work out my flexibility issues and my back and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Not to say I did it all myself, but I spent a long time seeking out the right sort of physios and practitioners that could actually help me. From there, he also introduced me to jiu-jitsu because he brought John Will in for a seminar. And, you think you had it good with me taking you for your first lesson. Well, I got John Will. It couldn't have been a better introduction because he just understands jiu-jitsu and how to teach it so well. And, there was no way that I couldn't possibly have been hooked on it after that class. And I sort of, we'd have seminars at Rick's where John would come up and spend a couple of hours with it, and that'd sustain us for a few months. Rick actually trained with Anthony Lange for, he'd do private lessons with him and he'd bring it back and show us all of that stuff. After a few years, I felt, I wasn't getting enough classes there because Rick runs a full-time Wing Chun gym, and he's still mostly about striking. I could only get a couple of times a week training there. So I branched further afield. I went to another place which was closer to home than Lange's is, SPMA. I went there for a year, and they were pretty good. They were mainly attuned to a younger crowd. Competition though, the training there was really tough. Attrition rate was huge. Of course, they've gone their separate ways now. I left there not because I was getting beaten up, because they changed their schedule, and the classes they had on, I just couldn't attend at the times they had them on. So I thought I better find somewhere else. And so I'd met Anthony Lange a few times, and I thought, well, he seems like a good prospect. And so I joined Lange. So I had to I had to travel further. But I found that the gym was a much better fit for me. Just the sort of vibe, and the other guys there were just a little bit more easygoing. I think because Anthony was a bit older than Elvis and Parosh, and he had a family and that sort of thing. He was sort of a little bit more balanced than they were. And I've been at Lange's since 2007, and
wow.
it's I've pretty much loved every minute of it. I've got much further in jiu-jitsu than I ever thought I would. Anthony's been an excellent mentor, as I'm sure everybody else there is finding. And that's worked out really well. I've got lots of friends at the gym. It's great. I can go there at lunchtime and go to the beach when it doesn't get a lot better than that.
True. So who would you say the most famous martial artist is that helped you, or that you've met, or drop some names, some famous martial artists?
To be honest, I haven't really met that many. The only sort of celebrity martial artist that I've met has been Richard Norton. I did a seminar with him. I thought he was pretty good. Most of the sort of top guys I've met have only been sort of legends within martial arts, and nobody outside them would know them. And probably, John William Chung, Wing Chun guy, William Chung.
Yes.
Few other guys in Taiwan that no one would have heard of, but they were very famous. That's really about it. Most of, I've trained with 3 Machados. I've trained with Steve Maxwell, who's a big influence on me. For those who don't know, he's a 6-degree black belt. He's a famous personal trainer. He trained the Gracies for the early UFCs in strength and conditioning. Who else? I've done seminars with Guy Mendez. That's Pedro Sauer. But most of the guys I sort of look up to in martial arts aren't celebrities.
Yeah. Well, they're celebrities to us.
I don't sort of move in those circles.
So what would be
Dave Nagel's probably met a few people.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say your most memorable seminar would be then?
John Wells seminars have all been really good. I've been to about 60 of them over my time. Dave Camarillo and Pedro Sauer give really good seminars. Dave Camarillo's seminar on Kimuras and arm bars, a lot of people said after that, this changes the way I do jiu-jitsu.
Oh.
He was really good. Just trying to think who else. Steve Maxwell's given me some great ideas, but more about strength and conditioning rather than jiu-jitsu. His jiu-jitsu is really, really, really old school. There's nothing sort of wrong with that, but it's sort of, I got more strength and conditioning info out of him, and sort of he's a couple of years older than me, so he's a bit of a role model for an aging martial artist sort of thing for me.
Yeah, agreed. So what would you say is the best advice relating to martial arts that you've been given?
Yeah, there's like a couple of types of advice you get, I think. Some of it's sort of like fortune cookie advice or sound bites sort of thing, and sometimes they can be profound. Probably the best couple of those I've heard, one that Peter King told me, which was one of his mentors said to him, your priorities in life should be family, work, and training, strictly in that order. And I think that'll serve most people well. If your family life is no good or your work situation's crap, it's hard to concentrate on your training.
True.
The one I'm sort of trying to work on at the moment is the concept of the minimum effective dose, particularly with regard to staying fit.
Oh.
Like, if you can do you can do 3 sets of an exercise and get a good result, that doesn't mean you're going to get a better result from doing 50 sets of that exercise, that sort of thing. So, it's very easy to overtrain in this game, particularly when you're getting older.
Yes.
And so I think it's always a good idea to look for, effectiveness and efficiency rather than just sort of grinding stuff out all the time. It's always going to be a grind, but don't make it more of a grind than it has to be. I think the best sort of advice you get, though, is sort of highly personalised and very specific to a particular time and situation in your training. I mentioned before that, Rick Spain said to me, your kicks let you down in your grading. And that doesn't sound like much, but, it really got me thinking, well, these are the obstacles I'm going to have to overcome to become a well-rounded martial artist. At least what I thought a well-rounded martial artist was at the time. This was before jiu-jitsu. And that just those few words, had a huge impact on me. But, if he'd said them to someone else, they might have thought, well, okay, I better work on my kicks a bit. So what? Sort of thing. And just recently before lockdown, I've been working on a sort of defensive system that a guy called Britt Mickelson sort of developed. And, I've got pretty good at that, if I say so myself. I mean, you said to me once your turtle is on fire.
Yeah, I couldn't get through
which
it.
Doesn't mean it's a train wreck, but my defence is pretty good. But I found one day just before lockdown, it's a bit more difficult with the gi because there's more handles and it's harder to protect yourself with the gi. and I can't remember who it was, but someone was sort of breaching my defenses, sort of thing, and getting a choke or close to a choke or something like that. And Anthony just said, your defense is really good, but you got to start thinking about escaping quickly now. You can't just sit there all day. And I thought, well, that's exactly what I needed to hear now. And sort of, I went away all enthused and excited, and about a week later, lockdown hit. So, still trying to come out of the other side of that.
Yeah. Well, you can pick up where you left off. Yeah.
Well, don't have much choice, really. And it's not far away now, hopefully. I don't know when we'll be able to wrestle again, but at least I'll be able to hang out at the gym and talk tough and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, what would be your favourite submission in jiu-jitsu at the moment? Or when you get back?
With upper body submissions, I really like Japanese neckties. I find they're really effective when someone's got bottom half guard on you and they're sort of sitting up trying to get an underhook on you. It's just right there. It's a little bit easier than a DAS unless you've got long arms. I don't think I'm not a T-Rex, but I find DAS is a lot more difficult than Japanese neckties. Lower body submissions, I like the Texas cloverleaf out of Cross Ashy. It just seems natural to me somehow. Right, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, okay. What about jiu-jitsu in the Olympics? Yes, no, or why?
Firstly, I don't think it's ever going to happen because jiu-jitsu is too fragmented. I think there's too many other promotions at the moment coming up. I just don't think there's ever going to be a single governing body, and I don't think the IBJJF is ever going to be it either. Too many people don't like the IBJJF, and I don't know if that's justified or not. Some of the things they do are strange, but they're probably the biggest and best thing out there still.
Yeah, that's food for thought.
Really, I really like jiu-jitsu, but to be honest, I find it's pretty boring to watch. If you don't understand what's going on, most people don't. I think it's sort of really boring.
Yeah.
And I think the Olympics can wreck a sport in a lot of ways. I mean, in the last one, somebody won a gold medal because they got knocked out.
Yeah. I think what you said there hit the nail on the head with all of the publications now, the organisations that are splintered. It's good points. Definitely.
I think it'd be better. I think it would be better for some people, but I don't think it would be better for everybody. And I don't necessarily think it'd be better for people that have been doing it for a while.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so on to the fun stuff now. What about Diaz McGregor 3? Who wins?
I don't know how well Connor's going to come back after breaking his leg. I mean, I think that's a big deal for people. And, surely he's got to be coming to the end of his fight career. I mean, he's got a truckload of money. It's all about glory and ego now for him, I think. And I don't know how long that can sustain you, to be honest. So I think there's a bit of a question mark over him. I mean, I admire his talent. He's definitely got talent, and he can be entertaining.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people hate him, but a lot of people hate Nate Diaz as well. But I think if I had to place a bet, I'd still put my money on Nate Diaz.
Ah, okay. And who wins a fight in their prime? GSP or Khabib?
Well, it's very difficult to say. I think GSP, what he excels at is, and it's probably not just him, it's all the other people with him, like Fares Sahabi and Danaher and people like that. He's very good at analysing his opponents and finding their weaknesses. I'd say that Khabib could maybe beat him once, but I think the second time, Khabib would find it very difficult to beat GSP.
Yeah, you'd have to see what Matt Hughes did wrong and maybe get something out of him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the strengths of GSP. I mean, I can't remember which video it is, but there's one of him where, they interview him and all his opponents, and all his opponents are saying, well, his wrestling's not good enough. And the match happens and GSP just monsters the guy with the wrestling. Or, he won't be able to survive the GMP, and, George GMP's his face into the, grease spot on the mat sort of thing.
Yeah.
I just think GSP is such a versatile fighter and an adaptable fighter, or was in his prime anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, I would never call that guy a has-been. I admire him greatly, but he's obviously past his prime now.
Yeah.
And he's had health issues and stuff.
Yeah, true. But yeah, he's definitely one of the greats, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Andrew. That's 21 questions. And
sure. If I could just say one more thing, as well as the guys I mentioned before, and David Crook, Rick Spone, John Will, Anthony, a couple of people that really helped me, particularly getting the black belt, were Peter King and Darko Zarek. And I shouldn't let an opportunity like this go without mentioning them.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, they're a couple of legends right there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, thanks for taking time out of your day and just catching up and answering those questions. Thanks very much.
No worries, mate. It's been a pleasure.